traffic laws by setting good example.
All right, we do apologize for our tardiness this morning, and let me make sure it's clear that it's our fault, not the officers who are here. They are on time and early. I think that's a part of their mantra. But let me say good morning to all of our listeners and viewers. As you can tell in the studio with me, we have again in 2024 Sergeant Henry and Inspector Phipps. However, though, we have an unusual guest in the studio, Deputy Commissioner Henry in the studio with us this morning. I'll say good morning to everyone and inquire his presence with us this morning. I know we have a number of issues to touch base on. I know some of you are really curious about, not curious, but have questions and concerns as it relates to the new traffic changes and flow to the one-way roads. And we have some other information to share with you guys as well. So we'll take it in strides, but first let's introduce our guests, and I'm going to start with the head, our Deputy Commissioner, Henry. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, GQ, and good morning, ladies. Good morning to your listeners. Mm-hmm. As usual, I'm always happy to be here on your station to share with the public information that is vital to them. Mm-hmm. As you say, persons may be wondering why I'm here this morning. Mm-hmm. I thought I would just drop in to give the ladies some assistance in explaining some of the recent traffic changes. Mm-hmm. Initially, they had planned to speak this morning to the traffic statistics for last year in terms of number of vehicles, number of accidents, and those things. And I thought it would be an opportune time for us to show a correlation between those statistics and the recent changes, and basically justify the changes, right, so that we could lay to rest some of the issues, some of the concerns that members of the public may have with respect to the changes. So I just thought that I would drop in to lend an assistance, not that they're not capable of doing it, but because these changes were approved by the licensing authority. They were recommended by the traffic department, and they were approved by the licensing authority. Okay. I thought I would come here on behalf of the licensing authority to give some justification and further explanation so that persons may be satisfied, can be satisfied as to why. So I will let the ladies go ahead and do their planned presentation in terms of the statistics, and then we could have a discussion on the changes after.
Okay, great. And of course, the lines will be open for those of you who are concerned, so you can get in and ask your questions and get your concerns addressed. Sergeant Henry, you're going to lead this morning, or is it going to be you?
I will.
Okay.
Good morning to the listening audience, and a happy new year to each and everyone. This morning we are here to give some statistics on accidents, as the deputy said, and also vehicles that were licensed or registered in the Federation. So for 2023, we had 1,888 accidents, which of those 1,591 were non-injuries. 266 were slight, 26 were serious, and we had 7 fatality. 2023. To compare with 2022 now, we had 1,756 accidents, which 1,430 were non-injuries, 286 slight, 34 serious, and 6 fatality we had for 2022. So we had an increase in 2023, which gave us a 7.5% overall. And these accidents are not just only in Basti alone.
Wow.
Traffic department deals with accidents that occur in Basti, and traffic department district is from West Farm by the stable, the Gottlieb, to Canada Estate by the railway track, and then we go over to Frigate Bay and we stop by Sugar Ridge. That's traffic department alone. Frigate Bay deals with Frigate Bay accidents. We have Keon that deal with from Canada by the railway track to Lodge Project, Lodge Village. That's before you turn the corner to go up into Lodge Village. And then Tabernacle deal with theirs also. We have Date Bay, deals with accidents. We have Sandy Point, and we have Oldwood, and Stapleton. So all accidents are not investigated by traffic department. Each station deals with their own traffic accidents.
Okay.
And then we had the... I'll stop here for now and let the inspector.
Okay.
So we get the breakdown in the injuries.
Okay, as Sergeant Henry just spoke, you would have realized that we had an increase in accident for 2023. So I'll give you the breakdown of each station accidents but first of all, let me tell you, accidents are classified in four areas. We have the non-injury, where the accident occur, and so we might have damages but no personal injuries. We have the slight, where the accident occur, and we have damages to the vehicle, or maybe not damages, but persons complain of pain about their bodies. Then we have the serious, of course, where bones are broken, parts of the body, maybe how it goes, serious wounds, and of course road fatality, which is death. So I'll start with Sandy Point. Sandy Point had 106 traffic accidents for 2023. Of those 106, 83 of those accidents were non-injury, 19 slight, no serious, and they had 1 road fatality. All Road had 119 road accidents, of which 91 non-injury, 24 slight, 3 serious, and 1 road fatality. Date Bay had 48 accidents, of which 30 were non-injury, 11 slight, 6 serious, and of course no road fatality. Tabernacle had dealt with 102 accidents, of which 34 were non-injury, 8 slights, and of course they had no serious and no road fatality. Keyon had 104 accidents, of which 92 were non-injury, 12 slights, and they too had no serious accidents or road fatality. Stapleton Police Station, they had 96 accidents, of which 74 non-injury, 18 slights, 5 serious, and no road fatality. Frigate Bay Police Station, they dealt with 102 traffic accidents, 85 of those were non-injury, 16 slights, and they too had no serious accident or road fatality. Traffic Department or Bastille, we would have dealt with 879 traffic accidents, of which 751 were non-injuries and 120 slights, and of course we had 5 serious accidents, and we dealt with 3 road fatality. Whereas our sister island Nevis, they had a total of 400 traffic accidents, of which 359 were non-injuries, 38 slight, 3 serious, and they too dealt with 2 road fatality.
Sergeant, you want to continue?
For the registration of vehicles, we had an increase of this year. Last year, we had 416 registered vehicles, 4,016 registered vehicles, which Nevis dealt with 1,318, 1,318, and St. Kitts had, we had 5,338 vehicles registered in 2022. Nevis had 1,318, St. Kitts had 4,116. For 2023 now, St. Kitts had 4,421 registered vehicles. Nevis had 1,581, 1,581 registered vehicles. The number of registered vehicles in St. Kitts is 27,169 vehicles. Nevis have 8,624 vehicles. That gives us a total of 35,793 registered vehicle in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'll stop here for now. I don't know if
Those are actually licensed and running.
Yes, those are actually licensed and running vehicles.
So I'll just butt in. So for the Federation, in total, we have 42,366 registered vehicle. So when you subtract 6,573, that makes up the vehicle that are broken down or unregistered. No, broken down or not licensed. So when you do the subtraction now, that is when you get 35,793 licensed vehicles on the
I
island.
understand. Now, I'm curious to see how this is intertwined with the recent changes. Deputy Commissioner?
Right. Thank you, GQ. And so we get an idea of the number of vehicles that we have on our roads. I don't think we get any new roads. Didn't hear them mention that we get additional roads. We have
I didn't hear that either.
the same number of roads that we had for the last how many ever years. I don't think Bastia can have any new roads. There's any space for any new roads in Bastia right now. But we are seeing a gradual increase in the number of vehicles. I mean, 35,000 vehicles. In the case of St. Kitts, 27,000 vehicles is a lot of vehicles. We have 45,000 people in St. Kitts. That's almost one.
Yeah, a vehicle per
Every
person.
2 persons,
Yeah.
one vehicle. And so you could expect congestion and other traffic flow issues having an increase in the number of vehicles to use the same space. We see also that there was an increase in the number of traffic accidents. We have 1,800 accidents in the Federation. For St. Kitts, how many accidents for St. Kitts? It's 1,756 accidents. In Bastia alone, over 800 accidents. And we see that increase by 7% over the same period last year. The fortunate thing is that most of them are non-injury. Nonetheless, we have 266 persons injured. 2023? Yeah, 266 persons injured, slightly. 26 serious injuries, and serious injuries as the inspector classified those that are where you have serious injuries, broken bones, serious wounds, that sort of thing, and 7 fatalities. Now we have to take measures to mitigate this type of increase. We cannot continue to watch the number of injuries and accidents spiral. We cannot control the number of vehicles because the increase in vehicles are signs of development, and we do not want to retard that. We just have to make adjustments to accommodate the increase, and that is what we are doing. We recently announced certain streets where we change the flow of traffic. For example, Sprat Street, Walwyn Avenue, Carty Alley, the main road at Lower Monkey Hill, and a road in Kayan, main road to Upper Kayan leading up to Waterworks.
And the one into the factory.
And the road at the factory. So I will explain the rationale for these changes, and of course we will invite a discussion from the public. Let me first say that part of the criticism that I'm hearing from the public is that we did not inform them before we made these changes, and I would accept that to a certain extent, but a lot of these changes or recommendations from the public on this show, I've heard myself. I've been here on the show sometimes on other shows and hear these complaints. People have called me and make these complaints, and the ladies here could testify that people would call into this show and complain about some of these streets that we made changes to. So the changes were the result of complaints from the public and our own observations. And so to say there was no public discussion is not totally true. Maybe we should have come and say, well, this is what we are contemplating and we can implement it soon. Maybe we should have done that. But in terms of getting to the conclusion, coming to a conclusion on the changes, it came out of these programs. Because we listen to the public and we make adjustments once the complaints are justified. So, Sprat Street, the reason why we restrict the flow to southward is simply because that junction is a right angle.
Forgive me. Going forward, can we say, look? Can we speak?
Sprat Street is the street by the Chinese supermarket.
Right.
Just where Jenkins at the top is at the top of that road. Jenkins Funeral Home. Uncle T's is in the vicinity on Kearn Street. The street that connects Kearn Street to Central Street.
So you have restricted traffic to go down.
So we restrict traffic to flow southwards towards the sea.
Okay.
From Kearn Street to Central Street.
Okay.
That is the restriction that we is implemented yet? Okay, that would be implemented. The reason for that is simple. When you try to exit Sprat Street onto Kearn Street, it is difficult seeing traffic approaching from your right because the building is perpendicular to the road. It's almost in line with the road. You have to protrude out onto Kearn Street somewhat in order to see if there's vehicles approaching. And doing that is risky because someone may be approaching at a fast pace and keeping close to their left because there's other vehicles approaching from their right. And so they're forced to keep left. And while you're protruding, no matter how slow you protrude, there's the risk that you would hit someone or that person would try to avoid you and hit an approaching vehicle in the opposite direction. And that has happened. We've had incidences of that at that junction. God forbid, the approaching vehicle might be a police vehicle responding to an emergency, or the ambulance, or the fire truck. And you could imagine the type of catastrophe you could have if the ambulance speeding to save someone's life, getting in an accident with somebody coming onto Kearn Street. We want to avoid that. We want to prevent that from happening. These people like to accuse us of being reactive. This is a case where we are being proactive. There is the risk of an accident with an emergency vehicle by someone entering the main road, and so we want to avoid that as much as we can. And so we restrict the direction of flow to southwards only. The argument that we get against that is that there are two other streets adjacent to that street that runs southwards only, West Bournemouth and Market Street. Well, that is true, but when we consider convenience and safety trumps. We recognize that there might be some inconvenience because you now have to go up to West Fines Avenue to get onto Kearn Street or go down to College Street to get it. That might be a bit of inconvenience for motorists. But it is better to have a little inconvenience than to have an accident.
The safety compromise.
So safety is paramount for us. And so where we have to choose between safety and convenience, we choose safety. And hence we turn the traffic to flow downwards. Someone mentioned, well, we could have put a mirror at the top of the road to aid the view. That is true, but we know mirrors do not last. We put mirrors at several junctions, and within a couple of months, the mirrors are damaged.
Sometimes less.
Sometimes less. The mirrors are damaged. Market Street is a good example. We tried to put mirrors at Market Street, and every couple of months we have to put a new one. They are expensive, and they're not available in stock. So if the mirror get damaged today, it might take several months before it is replaced, and then you have the problem in the interim. And so it is better to turn the traffic to flow away from Kearn Street rather than coming onto.
So you've tried that remedy before and it didn't work.
The mirror?
Yeah.
Right, at other places. And the mirrors do not last. There's one at Shadwell. When you come in from Greenlands, approaching the Shadwell roundabout, we have a mirror there, and if you go there now, there's a big hole in the mirror. I don't know if it was somebody deliberately threw a stone in it or how it happened, but there's a big hole in the mirror. So the mirror is not functioning the way it should. And there are other areas where we had mirrors and they're not there anymore. So the mirror, while it is an option, it is not one that we prefer because the mirrors do not last. It is an expense to us, and we go back to square one when the mirror is damaged. Wildwin Avenue.
And where's that now?
Wildwin Avenue is the street with the Democrat printry.
That's in the village.
In the village,
Across from the hospital?
next to West Side gas station.
Right.
It takes you down from Kearn Street right down to Trafalgar.
Okay.
That road, we see how narrow that road is. It could barely hold 2 cars. There are always vehicles parked on one side, especially in the evenings There's a church on that road, and almost everybody down there has a car. We are developing. We see the increase in cars. Everybody gets a car nowadays. And so if you have vehicles parked on one side and vehicles traveling in the other direction, in any direction, well, in both directions, you have a problem. And we see it all the time where a vehicle is coming up and one is coming down and they meet in the middle and somebody have to reverse. And while they're reversing, they hit one of the parked cars because they may not be as good as you in reversing, and they hit a parked car. We've had to respond to accidents like those. There's a church. Whenever there's church, the church have services several nights in the week, and so when the members come, there's additional vehicles parked on the street, and you have the problem of vehicles going up the road and down the road at the same time, and nowhere to turn but to reverse. There is the risk that an emergency vehicle might be responding to an emergency down that road. It's a long road. The ambulance, the police, fire truck, and then a vehicle is coming up halfway. What the police or the emergency vehicle would have to wait for the person to reverse. I don't think they would want the police vehicle to reverse or the emergency vehicle to reverse. The other vehicle would have to reverse, and they would have to wait. That is response time that is being lost. And so there is that risk also. So when we consider these risks, plus the obstruction that it would create when persons meet in the middle in both directions, and the risk of accidents when persons are reversing, we thought it best to have traffic flowing in one direction. And so traffic is flowing southward on that one. You come from Kayan Street down, right. So you could come off of Kayan Street and go down. You cannot come up to the main road. So if you want to come onto Kayan Street from down there are other streets you could use. You could use the one by Miss Utley.
Right. Now, before we move from Walwyn Avenue, someone called in and made a suggestion in terms of more signage for that area, because you have more than one adjacent road.
Yeah.
Right. Clearly. So I know you'll have one at the top, but you'll still have to put...
You put no left turns, no right turns, and no left turns on the side street. So I think those would, if over time, would have to be implemented. There are a number of streets merging onto that road, so we have to indicate that they can't turn right or left. So I guess the traffic department know what they have to do there.
All right. So before we leave Bastille, Katy Alley.
So Katy Alley. I mean, I think it's obvious the problem with Katy Alley. You come out of Katy Alley, the same thing. You cannot see left or right on Kayan Street without protruding. And when you protrude, there's a risk of accident. So the same reason why we restrict Spot Street, the same reason why we have to restrict Katy Alley. There's another street there, Stanford Street. Someone would have called me and asked, well, why didn't you all also restrict Stanford Street? Because it's the same problem when you're coming out of Stanford Street, you cannot see right in particular, because the building is in line with the road. That is the road that takes you down to George Street by Convent School, and at the top there's the constituency office. You cannot see to the right without protruding, and so we would have to consider that. I think very shortly we would restrict that. You could turn down, but we would want to restrict it. You can't come out onto Pond Road, because you have the same risk of accident protruding onto the road. Now, it is funny that persons would have called and asked why we don't restrict that one coming out, but when we do so, you would have the same situation that they're saying shouldn't happen, where you have 3 streets running the same direction. You would have the same situation there. You would have 3 streets running the same direction: Stanford Street, Katy Alley, Roxborough Street. So we have that situation. Again, it's a case of where you have to choose between safety and convenience, and we choose safety. So those simple reasons why we restrict those. We have an increased number of traffic and an increased number of accidents, and these accidents are caused sometimes by these blind spots where people cannot see good, and so we have to minimize those risks. The street by the factory, some persons thought it was the sugar factory road that takes you from F.T. Williams. And it's not that road. It is the small road through Kitsadat, just after you pass the roundabout. So if you're going towards the airport, there are 2 roads in Kitsadat on your left. The first road, just by the used car place there, Mr. Pemberton's used car. We restrict traffic from coming down, because it is dangerous when you come down to merge onto Wellington Road. You cannot see properly to your left, and vehicles come down there at high speeds. And you have two other junctions there that you have to contend with. You have vehicles coming out of Taylor's Range onto the Wellington Road. You have vehicles coming up Wellington Road. And you have vehicles coming out of the junction on the opposite side by Bladen's Commercial. So you have three directions that you have to look. And you can't see properly at but one direction. And so your risk is increased. We've had a number of accidents there, where people have tried to avoid somebody coming out the road and run into a lamppost on the other side, and we don't want that to continue. So we restrict traffic from coming down, so you could go up and come down the other one. It is safer by the other one because there are no other junctions in that vicinity, just the junction of that road and Wellington Road.
It's safer.
So it is safer. The factory road, just since I'm in that area, we have removed the no right turn at the top of that road where it merges with the F.T. Williams Highway. We had a restriction there, a right turn restriction. We have removed that restriction so you could turn right or left now, because we were arguing that it is difficult to see in those other areas why we restrict the turns. Well, in that area you could see for a long distance to your left or right, and so it really didn't make sense to have a restriction there. So you could come up Factory Road and turn left or right now onto the F.T. Williams Highway.
That's great news.
Yes.
Let's head up to St. Peter's.
St. Peter's. The road that we restrict, that is the road that takes you from the bridge when you enter Lower Monkey Hill. The bridge where the bat is takes you straight down the road where you're going towards Shadwell. Think Talbot live at the bottom of that road. And then you go right up the hill, come around, and go the other direction. Previously, it was two-way, where you go up and down on that street. Again, there are vehicles always park on that road because everybody nowadays has a vehicle. We see the increase. And so there always a line of vehicles park on that road. And if the space that is left cannot accommodate two-way traffic. So if you do not have a space to pull in, if you're coming down and somebody is coming up, somebody would have to reverse. And again, there's the risk of accident while you're reversing, if you cannot reverse as good as you. And so to reduce that risk, to remove that risk, it is best that we have traffic flowing in one direction on the entire road. So if you're coming from Shadwell and you want to go into Lower Monkey Hill, you'd have to make a left turn and go up the hill and exit on the other side.
Okay.
If you enter in Monkey Hill, you come down that straight down that road, and you could go Shadwell. If you want to go back you go up the hill, go out and come down the other hill. So it is not much of an inconvenience. I think I spoke with Public Works. There were some potholes in that road, the upper road. Even the lower one, the road was kind of bad, and Public Works are in the process now of filling those potholes. So the changes have now caused the persons in that area to get the roads repaired.
That's great.
So the roads in that area, the potholes are being repaired. If it hasn't started, it should start this week.
Now, before we head over to Keon, you made announcement of the adjustment crossed by the Factory Road by the F.T. William Highway,
Yes.
where you can now move the restrictions so you can go right.
Yes.
What about the concerns for individuals who are implementing, well, they're recommending that it be implemented that you don't turn right after you leave the gas station because you cannot see in that corner?
Right. That is a good recommendation. That is also something that we are looking at. We've had accidents there for that very reason. So someone come out and there's somebody coming around the corner. It happens when person coming around the corner is coming around too fast. If you person driving within the speed limit, there's enough time for you to stop if somebody is coming out to avoid an accident. But that junction is it could be a bit problematic because you have vehicles turning in, vehicles going past the junction, vehicles coming around the corner, and so if it gets busy, it could be problematic. And we are considering restricting right turns there. We haven't decided yet. Maybe we'll use this opportunity to get feedback from the public on this one, because we know it would create some inconvenience. But like I said, we prefer safety rather than convenience, but we want to ensure that we are satisfied whenever we make that change. But we are considering it. So maybe during the discourse this morning, persons could give their views on that so that we could help us to come to a conclusion. Finally, the one in Kayan.
Kayan, yes.
Okay, this is the one that we have suspended the change. We have put the change on pause temporarily, and we are planning to have a town hall meeting in Kayan because we find the Kayan community is divided on which direction the traffic should flow. I've spoken to a number of persons. I've seen a number of comments on Facebook, and there are some persons of the view that traffic should flow from the Guides Tree up to Central Kayan and come out down Waterworks onto the main road. There are some persons of the view that traffic should come up Waterworks and come down by the Guides Tree. Again, the reason why we are making these roads one way is because there are vehicles that are always parked on these streets. Again, everybody has a car, and so there are vehicles always parked on one side, and when you have traffic flowing in both directions, it becomes problematic for both of them to pass if there is one park on the other side. So you either have to look for space to pull in, or you run the risk of an accident or somebody having to reverse. And if there's an emergency vehicle approaching, when this is happening, it impedes the passage of an emergency vehicle. We always have to give consideration to emergency vehicles, whether the ambulance, the police, the fire, and we do not want these vehicles to be impeded because of traffic flow, and the traffic cannot move to clear their path. So we want to make sure that there is always a free path for these emergency vehicles, and so these roads would have to be made one way. The question is now, which direction should we allow traffic to flow? Those persons who prefer the traffic to go up Guides Tree, their argument is that most persons would come from Lower Kayan to go to Upper Kayan, and so it is easier for them to go up that road. The other argument is that if there's a funeral parlor at the bottom of that road, there's also a church in the center, Church of God, and then there's the Moravian Church. If there's a funeral there and they're using the Anglican cemetery, which is at the top of the road, it will be difficult for the funeral to have to come down the road, go all the way up on the main road and come up and come across again. So it is easier for the funeral to just go up the road and go into the cemetery, which is at the top of the road. So for funerals, it would make the funeral a little longer, the procession a little longer, if they have to come down the road and go up on the main road, and easier. So that is the argument for those persons who prefer.
Yeah.
Right. And so they prefer that direction. The other persons now who are against it are persons who are associated with the church on the other side, that they would have to go the other way, and if they have a funeral there at the Sabbath church and they can't go up, they have to come down on the main road and go up.
So everyone is looking at convenience.
So everyone,
convenience. I'm hearing. I'm hearing convenience. Everyone is looking about convenience.
Exactly. It's about convenience for them. But one of the argument though that we really take on board is that coming out from Waterworks onto the main road could be difficult because the vehicles park on the main road, and how the junction is difficult to see traffic on the main road properly.
From the other end. Yeah. I do agree with that.
Yeah, and so that would be the one that would
supersede.
Right, and that we would take on board because, again, safety trumps convenience. So for those persons who are inconvenienced by the extra distance they have to travel, while we regret it, we still prefer to make you safe than to make you move inconvenience. And so those are the considerations. There's also other options. Persons are saying, well, don't let them come down that road, let them go out to Cabbage Tree and come out. And so we want to weigh all these other options in the town hall meeting. So we have a town hall meeting tentatively set for next Thursday.
That's in Kayan?
In Kayan Community Center, because there are other parking issues on the main road that we would want to discuss. I think the last commissioner has approved for us to restrict parking on the main road across by the 7th day from the Guides Tree straight across towards that area. Restrict parking on on the main road. That was already approved by the last commissioner. We haven't implemented because we think that we need to discuss. There are a lot of vehicles that park across there, and so we would bring up that. That would be one of the topic for discussion at the meeting that we want to schedule for Kayan. So parking restriction on the main road and the direction that traffic should flow in Kayan. So we're going to discuss that with the Kayan community. So we put that Kayan changes on pause until the discussion, and then, but the other areas are being implemented slowly. Once these signs are up, then they will be in effect. We cannot say effective this date they're going to be implemented. We're letting people know that the changes would come. Once you see the signs up, then you know the change is in effect, because we cannot put up all the signs at the same time. It takes time for the signs to be erected.
Deputy Commissioner, we in our explanation before we open the line, we omit one area. That's the area there by Nevis Street in Bastia.
Yes, the school. There's a school right there, and if you have vehicles that always park on that road, and if you have traffic coming up and coming down, it creates a risk. Again, you have the same problem of not being able to pass, and you have children on the road, and we want to reduce that risk of the vehicles and the children. So we want to have everybody flying the same direction just to have some order. And so between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., traffic would only be allowed to flow down. So you come down Victoria Road, you come down by the school, put off your child, and you continue down the road. We don't want, when you put off your child, somebody's in front of you putting off their child too, coming up the road. Otherwise, you can't move. You have to wait until they don't put off their child, and then none of you could pass because somebody behind you and somebody behind he. So nobody could reverse, and then you have a gridlock there. And so to avoid those, everybody go in the same direction. You put off your child, you go. You come, put off your child, you go.
Right.
And in the evening, when you had less activity there, then you could go both directions again.
Okay. Now, I'm going to open the lines now, 465-2555. And for those of you in the United States and Canada area, if you want to get in on our conversation, you can do so by calling 718-577-2916. Let me make sure my little is up.
What?
Hold on.
Yeah,
Good. Yes. Good morning. You're live.
Hi, good morning. Just very briefly, I wanted to say to Dr. Henry, please do give some consideration to Millionaire Street in the village. Okay, that's my contribution.
Okay. Very good. Very good contribution by that caller. We recognize Millionaire Street has the same problem. It's a narrow road. You cannot even park on Millionaire Street, how narrow it is. And if you have traffic coming in both directions, you have the same issue. So Millionaire Street is another street that we would have to make one way. Question would be which direction, and so, but it would have to be made one way.
Okay. Good morning. You're live.
Hi, good morning. Wonderful program. Thanks to Inspector Henry. I have a little concern about that street. The behind a Value Mart where Glenroy Blanchett lives. So that project.
Yes.
To me, the road is a road that two vehicles can pass. Supposed to pass, but then you find vehicles are on both sides. So it is very difficult for people to pass there sometimes, most of the times. If an ambulance or fire truck also have to get through there, it's a problem. Because everybody want to park by the houses, by the homes.
Exactly.
And it is very difficult. So I don't know if you all could, you're going to have to do an island drive and see the different areas. I think you might have to use one road for an exit and one for entrance. Because to me, it could be problematic. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. That is one. Making the street one way is one option. Another option which other persons have preferred. I spoke with the engineer yesterday, and he's saying, well, rather than making one way, why not restrict the parking? Restrict the parking is easy, but you create another problem. Where those persons going to park? They're going to park somewhere else and create a problem in that space where they park. One problem, either a problem of vehicle damage or theft, because if you park your vehicle in some isolated area far from your home, you run the risk of somebody breaking into your vehicle. So you're going to create another problem if you just restrict the parking and say people find other places to park. You create another problem. So making parking restrictions is also easy, but we prefer to do the one way.
Before I go too far, I realize she said inspector. I don't think she's aware of your promotion, deputy commissioner.
Right. Sometimes people just look at the uniform, and because the inspectors are wear the same uniform, they just call everybody. So I don't really put too much to that.
All right, no problem. Good morning. You're live.
Good morning. I think I should look at them small street between Manchester Avenue and Bond Road. I think, John Street is a small street. Yeah, it's a small street. Nevon's Street East and Nevon's Street West is a small street.
Yes.
I think it's risky when people got to come down those streets there. It's like how you could come down John Street and turn up Brand Street.
Yeah.
And you could also come down West Street and turn up Brand Street. To come down Sebastian Street and Nevon's Street is down where then was coming out there with traffic flowing from east and west and Pan Road. So I think I should make them there one way.
Okay.
Just to come down, just to go up and not come down because a lot of traffic will be flowing the daily and sometimes you find a car coming up and a car coming down. Nobody want to go back and sometimes man jump out and block the road, confusion. So I think I should try to eliminate that there in them small street. Even them they good to make one like Nevon's Street East and Nevon's Street West and John Street. So look at the traffic coming out, it's supposed to be going in.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I agree with that caller, and this is the reason why we are making the other streets one way, but we're getting a pushback. Now, if tomorrow we come and say these streets are made one way, are we going to get the same pushback? Why you are making the street one way? Come on, get to my house. Because somebody going to be inconvenienced when they make it one way, and those who are inconvenienced going to complain.
But I don't think you should go back on your earlier statement, safety over convenience.
Exactly. So that is what I'm saying. But we're going to always have complaint because you see so much suggestion for one-way streets is the same. These streets that we are making one way now, we got those same recommendations from these programs. That is why we did it. And now we are getting recommendations for other streets. And when we do it, are we going to get the same pushback that we are getting now? That we do the ones that persons would have recommended.
I hear your concern, Deputy Commissioner.
So, but we have to look out for the public's interests, the public safety, and that always supersedes the individual interests. So, if you are inconvenienced by it, the public is made safer, and we are concerned about public safety above individual convenience.
Thank you for holding your ground, Deputy Commissioner. Good morning. You're live.
Hello, Zico. Good morning. This is Sonny Boy calling from New York.
Yes, Sonny Boy.
I'm enjoying this show, and I want to wish my family and my friends and countrymen a prosperous New Year.
Thank you.
And Deputy Commissioner Henry, I knew you were going to be a commissioner one day because I always support you and listen to you. And Sergeant Fitt, Inspector Phipps, and Sergeant Henry, one of you going to be the first female police commissioner in the future. I hope I'll be alive to see it. And that's all I have to say. I wish you all a good show, and I'm enjoying it from New York City. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioner Phipps.
Good morning. You're live.
Yes, good morning, gents. Take care of yourself. I'm Commissioner Henry.
Yes, sir.
You all need to do some town hall meeting and going to the rural because the radio ain't gonna get to the people much. You understand?
Yes.
You have burning issue. The fellow before my brother who talked from your town, he's right.
Yes.
It's too much of road in your town, and the ignorance an individual who driving don't want just aside what his problem. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good morning. You're live.
Yeah, pleasant good morning. All the best for the new year to everyone. Yeah, I observe a lot of stuff, right? And I commend the traffic authority for the changes, especially here in the village with the Waldwin Avenue there. Yeah, what the deputy commissioner spoke about, that really do happen with, especially at the Leben live. That section going toward the church is always block up and so on. So, and that is a good move. Even up Newtown and so on, I was living up Stainford Street, and the Carty Alley and the Stainford Street situation is really could lead to a lot of accident and so on. And the Spot Street, as a pedestrian walking across Spot Street, I also observe what he's talking about. So, yeah, thanks. All the best. Yeah.
All the best. Any response before we take any more calls?
Well, we are getting a lot of persons who are agreeing with the changes, but on social media, it's the opposite. So I know that there's a difference between the radio and social media. But I think we have a meeting.
Good morning, you're live. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, Deputy. Good morning, Inspector. And good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm here. Let me use the opportunity to wish all of you a Happy New Year. And this program is a vital and important program to the general public. First, I must say, I'm glad that the deputy is on along with the inspector, because I think there was some confusion because the person didn't understand exactly some of the streets. But the deputy commissioner did an excellent job by explaining the exact streets and the way the traffic is supposed to be going. And it only makes sense, because at the end of the day, I like the idea, safety over convenience. Bottom line. Deputy, don't change from that, because if you change from that, you're going to end up in problems. Always safety over convenience. Some people are going to be inconvenient for whatever reason, but the bottom line is safety. Even with the Cairn issue, I like the idea about putting off the Cairn issue for a later date. Have a conversation with the persons in Cairn, and then you implement what you have to implement. Because when you look at it, somebody is going to complain and somebody is going to be happy. But at the end of the day,
Safety
over convenience. Have a great day, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.
All right, so that's going to be your last call. Thank you for your input, Leston. I'm going to let you wrap up however you choose to do so, but thank you for using our platform this morning.
Always my pleasure. Well, one other thing that I would want to say here, and like I said, we always listen to feedback from the public, we analyze it, and if it makes sense, we implement. One of the feedback that we got, and we had already decided and agreed on it, is that those streets where you can turn right in the vicinity of the traffic lights, like if you're coming on Cairn Street, can't turn right into Church Street, can't turn right into College Street, can't turn right in certain places. In the evenings, when there's less traffic, we could ease the restriction. And so we had agreed, and the inspector is working on getting the appropriate signage, so that between 7 p.m., that's 7 in the night, and 7 a.m. in the morning, you could make right turns into those streets where you cannot make right turns during the day. So if you're coming across Cairn Street in the evening after 8 and you want to turn into Church Street, you'll be able to do so as long as there's no traffic coming in the opposite direction. Because the traffic is less and it will be less obstruction, so that you could make the right turn. So if you come up Liverpool, if you come up College Street, you'll be able to make a right turn onto Liverpool Road in the evenings. So those areas in the vicinity of the traffic lights where you cannot make right turns, we are going to put up signs that would allow you to make right turns after 7 p.m. So the restrictions would only be in place 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then in the evening, when the traffic is less busy, you can make those right turns. So those are some of the things that we are working on. Those will be coming soon. We just have to get the signs so that we could indicate. So please do not begin to turn right now. Wait until the signs are up. Once the signs are up, then we know that they're in effect.
Thank you for being here, Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you for having me.
Inspector, you're going to let that be the last word for this morning? You have something to add?
Just want to
Use the mic.
add, we would have had 670 new drivers on St. Kitts. So I'm imploring to all to consider safety over convenience.
See, that add to it. More drivers.
Sergeant?
And remember, many accidents are caused by impatient drivers who are rushing to get from point A to point B. While time is certainly a valid consideration, while traveling, safety is even more important.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, for another edition of On the Road. Stay tuned. Power Talk is up next.
Many stunt drivers on the road, man.